Hi, this is Nigel Saunders from Harlem Technology News. I'm here with Steve Bling, entrepreneur turned educator and influencer. And we're here at the Graduate Center at CUNY. Steve, great talk today. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for chatting with me.
So, there's so many things I want to ask you, but I'll get straight to the topic. You had discussed with me earlier. You gave me a sort of a pointer of doing a study about Silicon Valley versus New York. Which place is more applicable for diversity in technology in terms of startups, funding, and things of that nature? I know this is like early discussion. It was new, off the cuff, but what can you expand upon that?
Sure. I get a feeling going back and forth between the Valley and New York that New York has a very different base of diversity. That people have had mentors and jobs and opportunities in other industries, because New York is not just a innovation and technology cluster, it's a cluster in real estate and media and finance, and people of color and women and other minorities have also had opportunities in other industries before they move into tech. And also might have more friends kind of in other industries where they've had leadership positions. In Silicon Valley, it's historically a technology trajectory, and that's pretty limited if you don't come from that background.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, in terms of New York City, like you said that you pride yourself with being part of New York, coming from New York, and having like this drive and this hustle where your elbows is pretty much a tool to get you through to the next level. But you had said something interesting in your discussion, and you said that startup founders, they move obstacles from their eyesight or from their place. What do you mean by that?
Well, if you think about all the obstacles to actually make a company succeed, raise money, ship the product, get a building, convince other people, I mean, they're irrational. It's almost not possible if you kind of like deal with them one at a time. It's depressing. And so what you really want to do is keep your eye on the prize, not ignore the obstacles, but in fact you want to be motivated by the goal. And the goal is, I'm going to change the world, or I'm going to, get 1 million people to use something, or I'm going to get everybody to buy whatever I have. And now the question is, how do I remove the obstacles on the way to do that, rather than just facing all the obstacles? Let me just be clear, accountants don't run startups. Accountants think about all the things you need to get done as a checklist. The checklist is important, but the goal is even more important.
Awesome. You also talked about Silicon Valley has raised the bar in terms of how entrepreneurs are getting funded. And they're throwing a lot of money at entrepreneurs. But I also wanted to ask you, I didn't hear much about you discussing an MVP. And so what we learned from you is that get outside and learn who your customer is, because learning who your customer is also fortifies you to become a stronger leader.
Yep.
However, if you develop that MVP model, you are not just testing the water, but you're building a customer base and also testing your hypothesis.
You got it.
You go and you sit with an investor. How are they helping you? Because they want to see traction, not just throw money at you, but they want to see traction. What is it that the founder, knowing that he has an MVP model, should be expecting and looking out for when sitting with an investor?
Well, I think you just said it. They want to see some evidence. And nowadays you could simply ask investors, what kind of evidence do you want to see? Is it number of users? Is it scale? Is it delta rate of change of increase in growth? Is it revenue? Depending on the industry, they all have their own metrics. And this is kind of a Lemmings-like approach, as most VCs kind of invest with the herd. And so you want to figure out what their herd investment strategy is of the year. Last year, a couple of years ago, it was big data, and now it's AI and deep learning. Maybe it's ICOs and Bitcoin. You want to figure out whether you're in the right trend.
Great. And last and final question. In building startups and entrepreneurs, you really deliver some groundbreaking research and news in terms of how we should look at ourselves as a startup, because we're not big businesses, right? Big businesses and startups have nothing in common. Not necessarily nothing in common, but they shouldn't be looked at as the same.
Yes.
Just elaborate on that real quick.
Well, if you think about it, a large company has a series of knowns. You know your competitors, you know distribution channel, you know pricing, you know what customers want. In a startup, you're mostly dealing with unknowns. In fact, you sometimes convince yourself they're knowns because you wrote them down, but essentially you just have hypotheses, which is a fancy term for you're just guessing. And and using the same tools as a large company is kind of destructive. Is writing a plan and executing the plan makes sense when you're shipping version 5 or 10 or whatever, but makes no sense at all in an early stage venture. You want to get out and actually test those hypotheses.
Awesome. And if people want to find out more about Steve Blank, how can they?
SteveBlank.com.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Is that all right?
Yeah, yeah. Can I ask you a question? So I'm now
Walk up.
your bona fide evangelist, right? Is there a way I can do a giveaway?
Steve.